Geeks and Gamers. Matt Lemke here with Through Gamer Goggles, gamer-goggles.com. Today we're going to do a flip through on Frostgrave. Frostgrave is a miniatures rules set with, well, actually they do have minis now, but you don't need to buy the Osprey Games miniatures from North Star to play the game. You can use any miniatures that you want. Heck, I suppose if you wanted to play it on a large scale, you can even use the old Shadowrun figures. Joeseph McCullough did a great job on this book, or well, on the rules. They all did a good job on the book. So basically, I just want to flip through the book real quick and give you some important things that you might want to know about the game. And then we're going to start moving into other things with the game. Like, I'm going to do a lot for you guys with this game because it deserves it. It's a good game. I've played it, which most of the time, by the time I do a flip through, well, which is usually role-playing games, I don't get to actually play the game. It starts off with the introduction, miniatures game, what you need to play, what size table to use, which it scales nicely on a 2x2 to a 3x3 to a 4x4. I haven't tried 4x6 or 3x6 yet. I do intend on doing that. And then it moves into creating a wizard. This is actually one of the unique parts about the game. You create your wizard, you pick a school of magic, and then you advance as high as, I believe, if I remember correctly, as high as 40th level. A lot of thought went into this by Joe. He made aligned schools where it's a little bit harder to cast the spell because it's not a spell from your school of magic. Then there's neutral schools, which are still even a little bit farther. And then there's opposed, and they're a lot harder for you to play. I should say cast, not to play. This, for example, this is a chronomancer who manipulates time, etc. Well, should be pretty much aware of that. And you know, the opposed school is the enchanter. And basically, if he was going to cast an enchanting spell, which there's a whole slew of spells in the back with little cards that if you want to cut them out, you can cut them out. If not, you can probably find them as a PDF, I believe, on Osprey's website and just print them out. And then there's a whole bunch of monsters as well. But basically, it makes it harder for you to cast opposing spells. And then he moves through all the different schools of magic that are currently in the game. Oops. As you can see, the art, as usual, is, you know, minis on terrain, so they get to do their cool stuff. And after you select your wizard and figure it out, you assemble your warband, which this is really kind of interesting. You get 500 gold crowns to assemble your warband, and then you have different costs to purchase that type of troop. I would say your warband is probably not going to be more than 10 figures. Really, yeah, it would be really rough. I've played a few times now, and I don't think playing with more than 10 figures would be good, because then you're probably playing without an apprentice, and I think that'd be rough. I highly suggest you take an apprentice. Apprentices are basically the same as the wizard, except that they have lower stats. And then they have a thing for figuring out the starting price. An apprentice stat line will always be based on the wizard stat line. Nope, that's not the one. Anyway, basically they have a formula for purchasing him. Where is it? That's going to drive me nuts. I'll give you the formula later. And then they move into the different soldiers. And basically you have a warhound, thug, thief, archer, crossbowman, infantryman, tracker, man-at-arms, treasure hunter, knight, templar, ranger, barbarian, apothecary, and a marksman. And then move into like weapon descriptions and things of that nature. But I believe most of this stuff is already built into these characters. This is more like so you can kind of customize your own stuff. He really broke down the weapon system. Basically, a hand weapon is an axe or a sword. Two-handed weapon is your bigger weapons, like you know, you can have a battle axe or a Viking's axe, whatever floats your boat. You can technically, you know, become WYSIWYG if you want and find the models. That's kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to find the models that represent these basic things for all the different schools of magic. I'm going to have one wizard from every school. And then he moves into playing the game. And I mean, we're on page 25. There's a good bit of art, a good bit of charts already. I read these rules in about 35 minutes, which is a feat because I'm a slow reader. And then it starts off with initiative. If you're playing a group game, highest initiative wins, and so on. And then the game is broken down in a few different parts of the turn. Every turn has, well, the initiative phase, and then the wizard phase. The wizard activates, and then he can take up to 3 figures that are within 3 inches of him and activate them at the same time. And the apprentice gets to do the same in suit. If at any point in time you're missing either of those 2 figures, you just skip that phase. So group activation, which we just discussed, that's when you activate your wizard with other figures. And we'll go over gameplay at a later date. And then you have different things for movement, obstructions, there's falling damage, you can jump in the game, you can move by spell, and you have to move off the board at times. And then, well, there's multiple combats, and again, we'll go over this when we do gameplay. This is basically, an optional rule of crit hits, of course. Shooting. This, by the way, is a great picture. I actually kind of want to make this guy as my witch. There's modifiers for shooting, as there are in all games. But what's really unique about this game is the streamlinedness of combat. You roll a d20, your opponent rolls a d20, it's an opposed roll. If you hit, you take the total modified die roll and subtract the armor class. The difference is the damage. So let's do that one more time. 2 players roll 2 20-sided dice. If the attacker hits, you take the total modified die roll, subtract the opponent's armor class from the die roll. The difference is the damage or lack of damage. It's that simple. And that can be an extremely fast game, or it can be a game where you just nickel and dime people down. The optional rule for crit hit, we haven't used it. I don't think we're ever going to, because if you roll well, you kind of already critically hit, especially if your opponent doesn't roll well. It's very, in that sense, when you're on opposite ends of the spectrum for die rolling, it's very unforgiving. When you're closer together, it's pretty forgiving. And then, there's spellcasting, successes and failures. Spellcasting works pretty much the same way. It's a d20, but what is unique about, or cool about the game is you only need 1 more to cast your spell. Like, you missed it by 1. You can lose 1 of your wounds and make the spell go off. It's called empowering. And then creatures. Creatures have an AI built into them. Well, I should say collecting treasure. Basically, the purpose of the game is you're collecting treasure and to grow your warband and level up. And basically, you're treasure hunters. So you got all that fun stuff. You run around the board, you pick up your treasures and you get them off the board, and then between games you level up and do things to make your party better for the next game. It is a campaign-driven system. It would not be a good tournament system at all, which is really funny. I don't generally like games that can't be played as tournaments, and maybe I was wrong. Maybe I can't like games that can be played as both. Because almost every game I've ever played has been either tournament-driven or tournament-driven with the possibility of campaign-driven, and it was always linked too heavy towards one or the other to say it can do both. It's just my opinion, maybe. But this is purely campaign-driven, and the way it plays is just phenomenal. Creature actions, they have AI built into them. Basically, they move towards the nearest opposed or nearest opposition. And then ending the game. Well, basically, the game ends when nobody has figures left on the table, or and the winner is basically the person who has the most treasure. That's the basics. We'll go over all that as we get into it. Now, after the game has ended and you're playing in the campaign, there's injury and death. Your wizards, if they died in combat, may not be dead. They might be dead on a d20 roll. You can end up with a full recovery. You can be dead. You can have permanent injuries. So your wizard can actually lose an eye, man. And then or a smashed leg. You end up with a hurt movement. You walk around with a cane. So there's a lot of cool things that can happen in this, which leads to a lot of replayability, not just leveling up. And then experience and levels. Your characters obviously level up. Your apprentices level up with you. And then he has a super breakdown on treasure and crowns that takes a few pages. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. We're just going to move through it. He has rules for magic items that can be found and purchased. He has types. Some items you can only have one of on the table, or in your crew, I should say, and so on and so forth. And he has a breakdown. Basically, has a magic item compendium for everything that he talks about. And then he talks about spending treasure, which you can buy new soldiers, new apprentices. If your wizard dies, your apprentice can become your wizard. And then there's rules for how to buy magic items and grimoires and scrolls. You can even establish a base in this game. One of my favorites is the tower. Half-ruined spire allows the wizard to get closer to the heavens and clear his mind. The tower gains him a +2 bonus to reveal secret spells. And then the last chapter is all the different spells. I'm not going to cover all of these. One of the best spells in the game is Transpose, which basically allows you to switch places with a model within 10 inches of your wizard. It's really pretty good. Bone Dart is another really good spell. And then basically chapter 5 is, I think there's 10 scenarios in the first book. And then the last chapter is the bestiary. So that's Frostgrave. In a nutshell, just flipping through the book like I promised, it's an out of this world game. It really is. Why do I like it? I like games that are fast and simple. I am at a point where I want it to be about tactics and outwitting your opponent. I don't want a lot of gimmicks in my games, and there's not a lot of gimmicks in this game. This game requires a certain amount of skill, and there's a lot of freedom with it that you can do your own stories with the game. So you don't have to just stick in the Frostgrave universe or the Ruined City. You can make dungeon delvers out of it. The combat system's simple enough that you can just pick up 2 dice and say, okay, buddy, here's what it is. I roll this, you roll that, I hit you. My armor class is 10, I take 14 points of damage. And they understand it. It's that simple. It's like first graders could play this game. That's what's amazing about it. Will they have the tactical wits to be able to play with an adult? Maybe not, but they can grasp the concepts. And I cannot say that about every game that's out there. There's times I look at games and I read them, I'm like, what? This game does not do that to you. So thanks for watching. This has been my flip through on Frostgrave. Look for more soon. I'm probably going to do some gameplay with some painted D&D figures real quick, just to show you how combat works. And then I'm going to move through, and I'm actually going to start building all of my wizards and their teams, or I should say warbands. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you haven't picked up Frostgrave, you can order the hardback from Osprey, or you can pick it up at your local game store. You can also, if you don't have a local game store like some of us, you can get the PDF. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. It's really pretty good. Bone Dart is another really good spell. And then basically chapter 5 is, I think there's 10 scenarios in the first book. And then the last chapter is the bestiary. So that's Frostgrave. In a nutshell, just flipping through the book like I promised, it's an out of this world game. It really is. Why do I like it? I like games that are fast and simple. I am at a point where I want it to be about tactics and outwitting your opponent. I don't want a lot of gimmicks in my games, and there's not a lot of gimmicks in this game. This game requires a certain amount of skill, and there's a lot of freedom with it that you can do your own stories with the game. So you don't have to just stick in the Frostgrave universe or the Ruined City. You can make dungeon delvers out of it. The combat system's simple enough that you can just pick up 2 dice and say, okay, buddy, here's what it is. I roll this, you roll that, I hit you. My armor class is 10, I take 14 points of damage. And they understand it. It's that simple. It's like first graders could play this game. That's what's amazing about it. Will they have the tactical wits to be able to play with an adult? Maybe not, but they can grasp the concepts. And I cannot say that about every game that's out there. There's times I look at games and I read them, I'm like, what? This game does not do that to you. So thanks for watching. This has been my flip through on Frostgrave. Look for more soon. I'm probably going to do some gameplay with some painted D&D figures real quick, just to show you how combat works. And then I'm going to move through, and I'm actually going to start building all of my wizards and their teams, or I should say warbands. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you haven't picked up Frostgrave, you can order the hardback from Osprey, or you can pick it up at your local game store. You can also, if you don't have a local game store like some of us, you can get the PDF. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.